Hey guys, how you doing? Hope you're having a wonderful day. In this lesson, I'm going to teach you how to work with Shape Tool. So first of all, open a document or a new document, and then you can see the Shape Tool over here. And if you right click on it, here you can different Shape Tool. We have rectangle tool, rounded rectangle, ellipse, polygon, star tool, and flare tool. So we will cover each and every one of them respectively. All right. So the easiest thing that so the easiest thing that you can do is probably picking one of these rectangle tools or shape tools and creating a new object. Like this. So all you need to do is just pick one of these, for example, rectangle tool, and just click and drag, and there it is. You have a new shape. So right now, as you can see, this shape has no color, but it has a stroke. As you can see, the borders are black. Let's see them more clearly. So this is a stroke, and here the inside of the object, we call it fill. So to change its color, you can either go over here, and as you can see, the stroke color right now is black. You can change it, for example, to, let's say, blue. All right. And over here, you can change the fill color, which is right now in white. So let's change it to, let's say, yellow. So this is how you can change the stroke and fill color. You can also change it from here. As you can see, this is the stroke. You can see it. Okay, so this is the stroke color, which is right now in blue, and this is the fill color. You can just double click on each one of them and change it how you like this. Okay, so let's change it to, I don't know, something reddish, which is too much. So you can change the color either from here or from here. All right, so let's zoom out and delete this one and use each one of them to see what they are. So this is the rectangle tool, as you can see. So there is something that you should know. Whenever you're using a shape tool, doesn't matter which one, rectangle, rounded, ellipse, if you want, for example, a perfect square, right now you can draw something like this, but if you want a perfect square, you need to hold down the shift key and then click and drag like this. So right now it is something like this, but if you hold down the shift key, it'll changes to a perfect square. So that's it. So let's say that I'm using rounded rectangle tool. So again, you can draw different rounded rectangle tool, but if you click and drag and then hold down the shift key, it'll changes to a perfect circle like this. So let's see, let's choose the ellipse tool So again, you can use different shapes, but if you drag and then hold the shift key, again, you end up with the perfect circle. Polygon tool, something like this. You can, as you can see, when you're moving your mouse, you can change where the edges are, where the corners are located, for example, like this. But if you hold down the shift key, now it's a perfect polygon. You can't change the corners. So this is the difference between, this is without holding the shift key, and this is when you hold the shift key. So let's delete all of these. Okay. So let's use star. So this is star again. It's like, it's very much like the polygon tool. So when you're click and dragging, you can change where the corners are located. But if you hold down the shift key, now it's like this. You can't change the corners. It's a perfect star. Like this. So guys, another thing that you should know is, so let's use, for example, the rectangle tool, the rounded rectangle tool. First of all, let's delete all of these. Okay, so let's click on rounded rectangle tool. If you hold down the Alt key and then click and drag, the place when you're clicking, when you're holding the Alt key, is actually your center of your shape. So let's hold down the Alt key and then click and drag to see what happens. And as you can see, the little X in the center shows the center of your object. So you can't move it. But over here, as you can see, the center of your object changes when you're moving around and dragging with your mouse. But when you're holding the Alt key, it changes the center of your shape to the first place that you click and dragged. So let's hold down the Alt key and see what happens. And as you can see, the center of the shape or the object changes to where you first clicked and dragged. So that's another thing that you should know. So let's say that you want to draw something, some shape with specific measurements. For example, let's say that you want some rectangle with, I don't know, let's say 50 to 100. So if you want some specific shape, you need to first of all select a shape tool, for example the rectangle tool, and then click on your artboard. So when you're clicking, this will happen. So this box appears. So let's say that I want a rectangle with, let's say, 50 width and 65 height. And when you click OK, so there it is. It'll make you a rectangle shape with a specific measurements. So let's say, okay, do you see this unchained icon over here? If you click on it and it turned into chain, and when you're changing one of these units, the other one changes accordingly. For example, let's say that I want to choose 60. So it'll change according to this one. So this is it. So let's say that I want to use 50. Alright guys, so that's it. So let's hit OK. So you can do the same thing with other tools too. But another thing that you need to know is, so let's use polygon tool. First of all, let's delete all of these shapes. So let's click on polygon tool, and let's click and, okay, not here, let's click and drag. And as you can see, don't let go of your mouse button right now. So as you are click and dragging like this, use the up and down arrow keys on your keyboard and see what happens. So right now I'm using the up arrow key, and as you can see, you can change the number of sides when you're using up and down arrow keys. So let's hit down and see what happens. It'll eventually turns into a, so as you can see, eventually it'll turns into a triangle. So let's hit up arrow key one more time. Now it's a rectangle. Now it's turned into a polygon. So again, use the up and down arrow keys, and if you hit up arrow keys more, like, I don't know, 50 or 100 times, it'll kind of turn into a circle because the sides are getting more in numbers. So if you want to see the changes more clearly, you need to make your shape or object a lot more bigger. So let's change it back into something more interesting like this one. So again, you can use this up and down arrow key when you are using the star tool. So let's use star tool. Alright, so the same thing can happen with the star tool. So let's select star tool and draw star. So again, hit up and down arrow key and see what happens. So let's hit down arrow key. As you can see, it'll turns into something like a triangle. And when you hit the up arrow key, it turns into something like this. So you can do this as much as you want, and then it'll turn into something cool and interesting like this. So let's go back to what it was. And right now I want to show you something more interesting. So when you are using star tool, hold down the control key and see what happens. So when you're holding the control key, and as you can see, you can change the length of the corners like this. And if you go back to the center, you can change the shape of the star tool like this. And eventually it turns into something like this. So feel free to work with the star tool and see what you can make with this interesting tool. Alright guys, so that is it. We are done with this lesson. See you in the next one. We will talk about this shape tool and what you can do with them in more depth in later videos. So see you in the next one. Have fun.